Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel and to another installment in the Copper and Wood Chute Mountain Railroad. If you're watching last week, you will have seen me get all the track laid. This week, it's time to get everything wired up and install the switch machines. So without further ado, let's just head out to the workshop and get to work. Initially, my goal for the day was to install all the bus wires, but I realized that I didn't have the right circuit breaker. For some reason, I thought the client had given me a Digitrack system. It's not, it's NCE. So I've had to order NCE circuit breakers, and they won't be here for a few more days. I guess I can still get the bus wires in, but while I was thinking about mounting the circuit breakers, I also decided to get the octopus boards mounted as well. Here are 3 of them. The other one is already installed. There it is on a drop-down panel, and there's a turnbuckle underneath to hold it in the up position. I'm going to get the other 3 installed. And the nice thing about the arrangement I have here is that there will only be one switch machine which needs to be wired across a benchwork joint. Everything else can stay within the benchwork section that its octopus board is mounted on. I'm going to get the other 3 installed now, and I'll talk to you again later and decide where to go next. Well, here I am underneath the railroad. I've had a pretty good afternoon's wiring. I started with the bus wires for the standard gauge. I got those in, and then I worked on all the bus wires for the narrow gauge, starting at the section joint in the middle of the main town, and then working my way around into the staging yard. And I've also got all the feeders hooked up on those 2 sections. I decided to just start at one end and work my way down, staying down on the creeper most of the time. It's a lot easier than getting up and down constantly. Anyway, I'm pretty satisfied with what I got done this afternoon. I'm going to go in now and work on layout designs and other stuff. And I will see you again tomorrow. This morning I started by finishing off the bus wires. Well, I say finished. I've still got a few missing wires between the central benchwork joint and where the circuit breakers are going to be. There's no sense in putting those wires in just yet because I don't really know how long they're going to be. So I'm just going to leave those until I have the circuit breakers in my possession. But I have finished installing all the main bus wires for the whole railroad, starting from where I left off yesterday and working my way around to the drop flap, including the 2 for the switch machines. So it's 5 pieces of wire, or 5 colours of wire, although most of them were in multiple lengths. As you may have noticed just now, I've also done a lot of the feeders over this side of the railroad. I've still got the biggest concentration to do in that main benchwork section in the corner, but I had to get up, straighten my back, and go stretch my legs for a bit. Also give my fingers a rest. Anyway, now that I've stretched a bit, I'm going to go straight back to work and get the job finished. Actually, one more thing I thought would be worth pointing out. The bus wires for the drop flap, they go all the way back around this benchwork framing. Note how they enter the drop section near the hinge. And then I left plenty of slack on these 2 wires. That's those 2. So when I move the flap, there's no strain on the wires. Well, I've now finished hooking up all the feeder wires at the bottom. The only wires still hanging down are the green wires to go to the frogs, and a few pieces that I've put in for the frog polarity hooking up to the bus wires, where I've needed to use the same terminal block, the same posi tap as a regular track feed. So there it is all the way around. I've also put the last 2 pieces of sub-bus in. See the grey and the white there. Those are for the 2 spurs to the engine house. And those will be powered via isolating switches. And the last thing I did while I was down on the creeper was to put in the yellow and purple wires to the octopus boards. Yesterday my circuit breakers arrived in the mail, so I'm now able to continue. I've already mounted them on the board exactly the same way as I did the Town Valley Depot Octopus boards for the turnout control. I also purchased a power strip yesterday while I was in town, so now today I can get the wiring finished. Next thing I've got to do is get this one installed, put the turnbuckle on, and then I can wire it up. Well, I have now finished installing those circuit breakers. Here they are on the drop-down panel underneath the benchwork, all fully installed, easily released with the turnbuckle. And here they are hanging down where they're easily accessible. Zeusy, come on. Yes, every time I get down the creeper, Zeus wants to jump on my lap. Makes it very difficult for me to work sometimes. But I love having him out here. This red and black pair of wires that just hangs in the middle of nowhere, that will eventually go back to the power supply. And in fact, that is the next thing to do now, get that installed. So let me get organized for that, and I'll be right back. It shouldn't take very long. Well, here it is with the power strip and the power supply for the turnouts zip tied to the joist. It's very simple. The LED for the turnout control is on, so obviously power is continuous. I'm a little bit concerned that the LED on the DCC panel is not lit. I'm going to have to go inside, get my test meter and look up the instructions to see if that's a problem. Although I never did find out exactly what the cause of the problem was, I contacted NCE customer support. They sent me a troubleshooting guide. In fact, they got back to me very, very quickly. Before I'd finished my lunch, it was in my inbox. I went through their instructions, followed them closely, and for whatever reason, the problem fixed itself. So, as I say, I don't know what caused it in the first place, but I've now successfully run a locomotive over most of the track. I could not get the customer's narrow gauge mogul to work, so I had to use one of my own HO locomotives. But that's okay. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. I'm just here testing that the track works. The only places I haven't been are the 6 spurs that are on isolating sections, and that's because there's no power to those just yet. There were a few of the turnouts that the locomotive hesitated on, and that was to be expected because the frogs are not yet wired up, and it's a short wheelbase locomotive with limited number of pickups. Anyway, I am going to call that track test done. I think the next thing I need to do is to start installing switch machines. That is all the switch machines installed, tested and adjusted for the one side of the railroad, for the town of Copper Junction, along with the standard gauge one. I haven't started over the other side of the room yet. I've still got 5 more in the town of Laconia and 4 more in the staging yard. So I'm exactly halfway there. I'm just going to keep going till it's done, and I think I've got enough time to finish that today. I have not yet wired up any of the frogs though. Well, I have now installed and tested all 18 switch machines. Didn't take very long. One of them I need to reverse. This one here was too close to the end of the drop flap to be able to put it the correct way around. So I've had to put the switch machine in backwards, which means that the fascia control now shows the reverse indication. I do have the device to reverse it in my basement. I'm going to have to go in and find one of them and install it. It's only about 5 o'clock, so I'm going to do that now, and then I'll be back. Well, this one now works correctly. I've inserted one of the controller reversers, just plugged it straight into the back of the fascia controller. I do have some that are supposed to work, putting them in line with the switch machine, but for some reason it didn't want to work. I don't know if it was faulty or if I'm not using it right, but this one works. See, the green LED is forward and the front route is set. If I switch it, the rear route is now set and the rear LED is lit. So that one now works. I think I'm going to insert one over here as well. These two turnouts were a little bit too close together. You can see how the operating rod's nowhere near vertical. That's because I needed to pinch a little bit of extra gap between the switch machines. I think what I'm going to do is turn this one round, which will allow this one to sit nice and vertical. And then I'll just add another one of those reversers in it. So let me do that quickly and I'll be right back. Okay, those control rods are a lot closer to vertical now, and I like that better. Now I'm going to call that a day, do a bit of cleaning up first, put all the rest of the RC cables away, tidy up all the tools. I'm not going to start wiring up the frogs today, because it's so close to going in time anyway. I'm going to do that tomorrow, so I will see you then. Which is Thursday morning, and this morning I want to get all the frogs wired up so I can test the switch machines. Well, they work mechanically, but once I've wired up all the frogs, I can then run a locomotive through each turnout in both directions, make sure they're working electrically. There's only 18 of them. I think I should be able to get that done this morning. So I'm just going to turn the camera off and I will talk to you again later. Well, it may not look any different when I last spoke to you, but I have now wired up all the frogs and I have tested a locomotive in both directions through every turnout. I've also put temporary jumpers in the isolating sections, in the engine house tracks, and also in the staging yard tracks. So I was able to get the locomotive in there and test those as well. Well, that's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed the video, found it useful or interesting or both. I also hope that you enjoyed the photo bomb from Zeus. I decided to leave it in instead of editing it out because I thought it was kind of cute. Anyway, I'm going to sign off here and I hope to see you back next week. In the meantime, thanks for watching and bye for now.